Hey guys, Chris again from ClassicVWBugs.com, and in this tip I want to talk to you about how to replace your rear torsion arm bushings for your early swing axle type Beetles. And as you can see here, we have a body off at 54 chassis here. It's a lot easier to film this procedure with the body off, but what you're going to want to do is jack up your car from the rear and put the jack stands under the jack points, and then you're going to want to start breaking the nuts loose where the axle is held on to the extension flat torsion arm. You're going to want to loosen those nuts and bolts, and also you're going to want to chisel a mark, as you can see there, on the top bolt there, so when it comes time to put this all back together, you want to line it up correctly in the end. So like I said, just take the bolts off. Make sure you also undo your shocks and undo your steel and soft brake lines. As you can see here, we took our bolts out. Now the axles are kind of loose, and you're going to want to pull them away and get them out of the way, and they will move. Now you're going to want to take your torsion arm cover off, which sometimes can be a little problematic to take off, but as you can see here, there's the rubber bushing that's around the end here, at the end of the torsion arm. And when you buy these, they usually come in a pack of 4. And there's our torsion arm cover. We usually sandblast those and paint them. But sometimes the rubbers are a little stubborn to get off, because they might be 55, 60 years old, or maybe maybe older. Who knows if you're using splits? But what you're going to want to do is we use a Stilson wrench to loosen it a little bit, and then just with a screwdriver you can pull it right off. Now this is a crucial point. You're gonna want to get some chalk and mark where the torsion arm sits in relation to the outer casting there. This is crucial, because once you start pulling the torsion arm away, as we're going to show you in the next shot, the arm is going to drop down a bit. But before we do that, to protect yourself, you're going to want to get a jack and start jacking up underneath the torsion arm, just to hold this in place. So what's going to happen is, once you start pulling the arm out of the socket there, you don't want this thing to just shoot straight down. It's safer to put the jack underneath it. Now if you want to be even more safe, you can put the cover back on loose, so if you're afraid maybe the arm might pop out and go way too far out for you, and then you're misaligned. But give yourself a gap, so you can get in there. But as you can see here, we just used the crowbar. We also wedged a big screwdriver in there. We used the crowbar, and we just start wiggling it out. It might take some time, because remember, it might never have been taken out before. So you're going to want to just be with a little pressure, just keep wiggling it out. And as you can see, we started moving it away, and now it's kind of away from, it's not flush anymore. We started moving it away. Now you'll also see we'll drop the jack, and the arm will drop a bit, and that's why we did those marks, the chalk marks, because now you can see the chalk marks are actually off a step or so. But as you can see here, we moved it away. It's not flush. Okay, that's what you want. Okay, now you can also see where the chalk marks are. You see how they're off now, as we've been pulling it away. That's why you need to mark that, because as you're pulling it away, the arm goes downward. So we just pull that right out. And then the other bushing is inside the tube. There's your whole torsion arm. Just pop that out with a screwdriver. Sometimes, again, they might be stubborn. They've been in there for years. These usually, like I said, come in a pack of 4. Wolfsburg West sells them, or CIP1.com. Got to make sure you want to grease them up, and they're kind of cone shaped, so you got to make sure that the smaller end is going to go into the hole first. You're going to want to grease up the splines on the torsion arm, and then insert it back in. Now remember where your markings were, so you're going to want to be off, like, maybe, I don't know, ½ inch or so, or quarter of an inch or so, wherever you marked it. Okay, see this, we're off just a bit, because remember, you're going to have to jack it up again to get it into place. Just basically put it back on the way you took it out. And you might need a rubber mallet to get it to go in. It'll go only so far, and then you're going to have to get the jack underneath it again to get it into place. Now when you have the body on the chassis in this procedure, what we're going to show you now, it'll be a lot better for you, because the weight of the body will then give you a little more leverage with the jack to push the torsion arm back up into place. But I'll show you that in a second. Then you want to get the other seal and put that on with the smaller end facing outward. The bigger end goes towards the torsion arm. It's coned. And then you might want to get a hammer or something and then just kind of bang it into place. Just put enough grease on it so it slides right on. Now, this is where you're going to have to start jacking up the torsion arm. Now, as you can see, as we're going up, it's also lifting the chassis as well because it's spring tension, you know. So when you have the shell on the chassis, you'll get that spring action that pushes it down, like as we're doing here. But what we did was, see, you need to press down so that torsion arm, the flat plate, comes even with the back brace. And it's got to get up and over it. It's like a step there. So you got to get that pushed down hard enough so then you can hammer the torsion arm back in. You might need like a long, heavy-duty extension on the end of a big mallet or something, and just start hammering it back into place as the car is being pressed down. Sometimes you might still have to press it down, but now you see, as we were pushing up on it, now we're in, and the chalk marks are lined up. And you see now the arm is flush and is up over that step where the brace is. See, now we're flush inside there. And you just get your torsion cover. Now again, the cover now might be a little more difficult to get on now because you have a new seal in there, so you might need an implement like this to put into the hole so you can line them up. Or sometimes you might even need a C-clamp like we're using here to compress the cover in more so you can catch your threads. Catch the threads with your bolts, you know. And this is a good time to either retap the threads if there's a bunch of paint or dirt or gunk in there. You can retap those, and we also like to clean up the bolts, put them on a wire wheel or something, and then lubricate them to get them in. But just put them in now for like finger tight, and then you can start screwing them down.
Wow.
Just use a rigid gun for this, and then if you want to torque it later, that's fine. And this, we'll go over it one more time. This is, we're putting this right back in again. We put the new bushings on.
There it goes. Yeah.
Remember, on the outside bushing, the smaller end that's coned downward is facing the outside. The big end goes up against the torsion arm.
That's it. 3.5.
You can also do some measurements to make sure when you took it out and when you're putting it back in that you're lined up okay. And once again, you just get the jack and start pressing upward, lifting it up. But again, we need to put pressure on this chassis because there's no weight of the shell of the bug on it. So you might have it a little bit easier for you, but just for the sake of the video, it's a lot easier to film this way. Tighten these down. And that's basically how you change your bushings. And it makes the car ride much, much better. And now we're going to start putting the axles back on. The reason why you change these bushings is a lot of times if you're feeling symptoms of the car skating on the road, it's usually an indication that those bushings are worn. And remember, you want to get your bolts in. Sometimes these might be a little tough once you put the axle back into that slot. To tighten these down, you might also need an implement to line up the holes. And remember, you want to line up where you chiseled or made a mark with chalk on the top bolt there. What you do is you put that top bolt in, and then the other two, snug them down, and then you can hammer them into place so the lines line up. You got to make sure that's lined up. Here's just the other axle where we're trying to use the implement to line up the hole so we can get the bolts in. Again, make sure you line up your chisel point at the top there. Like I said, you can just snug them down and then hit it into place with a hammer if you have to. But for the most part, they really don't get too out of sync, you know. See, there's our chisels. I mean, you can hardly see them, but there's two lines there, and they're lined up pretty well. Now once you put this all back together and lay the car back down with its tires and such, this is a trial and error situation sometimes, because sometimes the car might sit a little bit low or a little bit high, and you might have to go back and redo this and readjust the torsion arms again. But for the most part, that is about it, guys. Good luck.